Hello. Thank you for the lovely introduction. So as Tom explained, we're going to be talking a little bit about how we use those skills within the team, how we train people, what training is available. So without further ado, I'll introduce our guests. So first we have Michael McKenna from Final Pixel. We have Dr. Jodie Nelson Tabor from Final Pixel. Got the name right? We have Rachel Wood. And we also have Christian Chimney from Absen joining us. So firstly, thank you all for joining. I know this is a hot topic between lots of us at all times throughout lots of trade shows that we do. Speaking to industry experts, it's always about how do we get that next generation into our industries, the cross industries that we've got here today, but also how do we train the people that we currently have in the industry to try something different, to work with some new technology. So I'm going to get straight into it. So what kind of skills do we need to have on virtual production? Rachel, I'm going to go.
I mean, I don't think I'm the best place to answer that one.
Michael, do you want to take that question?
I can answer that. I think, it's a big answer, really, like what kind of skills. I mean, it's obviously, there's so many different elements to this workflow and pipeline. But what I would say, is that we need the skills that are required to do the job. And I think there is a huge amount of stuff you can learn to do with Unreal Engine, or you can learn with LEDs, or you can learn with processing. These are very, very deep topics in terms of the amount of depth you can go into to learn all the technicalities. However, what skills people need are the skills we need to do the jobs, as it were. So to come on set and be able to do the on-set technical artist role, for example, there's a lot of things that come up time and time again that are quite similar. So like being able to get the skills together to be able to do the majority of those jobs that come up on set, I think is one of the really kind of key things with it all. Learning those skills that are needed to do the roles on a virtual production set, and so where I'm going with this is the only way that you can actually define what those skills are and what we need is with really clear job roles and really clear job descriptions. And as an industry, there's a lot of talk about like a skills gap or like a skills shortage. I fundamentally don't really believe there's a skills shortage. I think there's plenty of brilliant people out there. What we're failing on is defining these job roles and defining the specific skills within those jobs that people know.
Okay, so if somebody was looking to come into the industry who had those skills or is straight out of university and got a graduate, where do they go? Where is there a place that we think that as a community we need to get together and get those job descriptions and make it sort of a unified? Is that going to work? A unified jobs spec?
I think, look at a film set. So you have a camera department with a second AC and a first AC, a cinematographer. They are all, there's a very clear career path, if you like, within that department. It's no different for virtual production. So we should have very clear departments, very clear roles, and very clear progression through those roles, just like any other department. And so I think, where is all that going to come from? It's going to come from a lot of industry partners working together. So, there's some industry bodies like SIMPTE, for example, that are that are doing a lot of work around the on-set virtual production teams. But actually, it's going to come from a convergence of knowledge from all these, amazing people we've had today, and all the people from, other studios that are working in virtual production, and sharing that knowledge to say, well, okay, this looks like these are the roles. Someone mentioned it this morning that there was, I think it was David from ARRI mentioned how, first of all, they thought you needed one guy to do, or one lady to do all these jobs. It turns out actually you need 3 people in there. It's that kind of evolution, and that's kind of that convergence is happening in the industry. And organisations like Screen Skills are there to kind of help guide that a bit. And I think there's a lot of discussion at that sort of level. There's also then internationally, the large studios are definitely working together on things like this. Certainly we're speaking to some of those large studios as well. So I think there is a convergence that's going to continue to happen in time. There's some really obvious roles, but then there's still some other things that I think will take a bit of time to settle down. But generally, it's interesting coming to a lot of these talks and panel events and speaking, and a lot of the conversations internationally with virtual production, it's very similar. We're heading in very similar directions when it comes to the teams and the structure of those teams and the organisation charts that people put up when they talk about their teams. Like, it's interesting. Like, we're definitely getting this convergence. So I think we're on the way to that, and the more that we define those roles, the more we'll be able to say to people, you want to come to virtual production, these are the types of jobs, and these are the sorts of things you should go and learn to do it.
So then that, like you say, it helps us define a training plan or a training programs. And I think, Rachel, we were talking a little bit earlier about some of the recent training that you've been involved in. So did you want to expand a little bit on that?
Yeah, so I come from theatre production design, and I tried Oculus, and something in my head went, oh, this is interesting. And that was back in 2014. And I also fell in love with production management at that point in time. I like looking after people, putting people together. I like spreadsheets. Because there hasn't been an industry, production management, you very much learn it on the job, and you very much learn from people teaching you their skills, because it is very holistic, because we're looking after people. So I've been working in traditional production management, and also keeping an eye, I love XRLO, was VRLO, and keeping an eye on the tech, doing training skills, doing Nuke courses, doing Unreal courses. And then recently, we've brilliantly seen introduction to virtual production courses, and we've seen those. And I will say they are well worth doing, whatever you do in the industry, especially if you've got hands-on part of it, because you will learn so much from messing up to doing what we saw earlier with a demo, and having a team of DOPs, directors, producers all together trying to make a shot work, none of you knowing how to use it. And I learnt so much in those few hours of, I don't need to know in depth all of the skills, but as Will said earlier, learning the language is so important, because you also learn how to respect your team, and you also learn what everyone's role is, because I think you're right, defined roles are needed, but you also need to respect that role. And we're not learning coming up, because we're just creating this industry. So we massively need to do that.
So do you think we're setting the scene for the future and making sure that we're getting things in place so that it can sort of take its toll as time goes on?
I think it's getting there. I think it's, at the moment, we're at a point where you get to decide what the industry is going to be. And that's really exciting. And at the moment, it's very heavy based on film, it's very based on advertising, because as we know, that's where the money is, and that's where people are willing to take those chances, and you've got different work formats. I work a lot in natural history and specialist factual, and I'm really excited how it will be used for that. It's going to be a while. We're starting to see uptake, but I think the stuff that we're going to do, and when I talk to my teams about virtual production, there's always, because it's an unknown, they don't want to take it up, but the ideas they have of how we can make content is incredible, and I really want to see us reaching out to that side of the industry as well.
Okay, so then Jodie, can you comment on that you come from a training background, can you add anything to what Rachel's just said?
Yeah, just a brief sort of background. So I come from academia, which is quite interesting, particularly of its late. And I also am a producer and a writer, and I lived in LA and did the traditional filmmaking where everybody put you in a box and you can't do this if you only do that. And then I really got into the idea, because I was told, I was drilled into me as an MA, those who don't do teach. And I thought that was the most ridiculous thing ever. And we're now in an environment where the challenges with industry and, say, academia, for example, not working together in the past because industry is working all the time, so it's difficult to get experts in the classroom. And the experts, the subject experts, haven't been on set, so it's quite difficult to teach nascent technology and things that happen quite quickly. So I think the pandemic has really just turned everything on its head, where training is very needed, but now it's just really opened the curtains on how critical it is that these skills get taught. But not only the skills for people going industry, but also those that want to teach those who need to go into the industry because they haven't been in the industry for a while or haven't got their hands on this kind of technology. And as Michael said, it's, there's so many different key areas. Somebody said, I think it was Aussie that was saying, figure out what it is you want to do and go and learn that. Well, what is virtual production? So Intro to Virtual Production is such a great primer for wherever you are. If any of you have seen the Screen Skills latest report where they had that massive messy mandala about all the crew people on the team and how there was all these departments that were merging with each other. There was no sort of definitive, and I think that's a really exciting thing because, as you said, we're at a moment in time where we get to kind of create what this direction is going to look like. And so people that are really excited about getting into this, and I would have to say 3 years ago was my turning point. I had listened to him on a Story Futures workshop, and his enthusiasm and also his ability to say, look guys, I can just make a film on my own in Unreal. As a producer, instead of having to go out, raise the money, find the crew, build the film, was like, well, I'm just gonna go do my own thing. I'm gonna learn Unreal. Haven't done that yet. And then Story Futures had put out a grant for Train the Trainer, and I was really interested as a producer, how do I actually do virtual production? And then the pandemic hit, and we ended up making a virtual production inside a university where nobody knew how to do virtual production, and we had to do it remotely. And it was that opportunity that was like, oh my God, look how many opportunities we have to create and these digital skills to learn hard skills and soft skills, and the students are watching us in this space, and it was just such a great experience. And how can we take that and replicate it in our training that is so necessary now? And so that was a really big insight.
So how do we replicate that? How do we take some of those skills and implement them into the training that you guys are doing and the industry needs to do?
Is that for me? Again, there are a lot of traditional skills that are overlapping, but again, you have all these new technologies. So it's getting your head around what these new technologies are, what they can do, but also where do you fit in that sort of ecosystem. And again, somebody was saying earlier, be kind of a generalist. And I think that's a really, I've always taken that perspective as a producer because I need to know what everybody on set does so that I can do my job effectively. And I teach the same way. Learn as much as you can and figure out what you love doing the most, and then that's where you should focus on. Find people, teachers, organizations that you trust. These gaps between when you graduate from uni and when you get into the industry is a chasm. And so people like Screen Skills, BFI Academy, our academy is trying to fill those skills gaps to get them out into industry as fast as possible, but also to teach them the skills that will stick. Not just saying, here's the latest technology, here's how you turn on a button, and here's how you make something work, but how do you drive that into the narrative fold of actually being a creative skill, a skilled filmmaker, no matter what capacity you're in. And so it's building those it's building that curricula, thinking of the learning outcomes. What are the hard and soft skills that they're going to get out of this? How to work in this new ecosystem and this completely new workflow that we're having to face. And it's a challenge. There's a lot.
Yeah, and I think there's two sides of it, and that's why everyone's here today. We've got the ecosystem partners doing the technology, but there's then also the people on set who are doing the work to make the technology look good. So Christian, I know that we've had a lot of overlap here because we're dealing with a lot of different industries, but from an AV industry perspective, we are also aware of the shortage of skills. And I know that from a technical background, how do you find that people are dealing with the skills in technology of building LED screens? I mean, I could not put one of these together, and I don't think it wouldn't take somebody. Somebody would need a lot of skills to do this. There is teams here today who have made this happen, but how do we teach people to do this? How do we get this ready for then the creatives to take over?
Yeah, so first of all, we started within our company to establish a so-called ACE training. And this is called Absen Certified Engineer, so it's really engineered level. And as we and also, by the way, by myself, pretty much coming out of the rental and staging industry. So we always do have in mind the big picture and the big solution. So and to in case of an event, to run the event, or if we make this example of a movie, to finally have the movie, and that is what we all need to work together on. And we just add the small bit of to make people and engineers aware of how to operate an LED. and how to service an LED. But I also fully agree with you that it really is important that you kind of extend your knowledge to the other bits and pieces in the whole ecosystem. So we are not an island in there. So it's the full solution which finally count. And I see now there is a big opportunity to do even more than we do actually now with our ACE training, to get the connection, because it's a new and still in development solution and industry. And so that is what we are really looking forward, and means even extend what we actually do.
Yeah, and I think to add, we all are always talking within Absen that we are just one part of the puzzle. We can only provide brilliant quality LED. With whatever you choose to do with that is a completely different skill set. So from an technical perspective, does that then transfer into sort of the film television industry? Are we want to be supporting you? What these partnerships that we're creating, do you think that more can be done within the crossover of industries? Rachel, do you want to comment on that one?
I think definitely. I've had a few productions over the last year where we've been intending to use virtual production, and I've gone on to the project purely for that reason. And then we've got to the point where sometimes we've been in like the third previs meeting with Lux or another company, and it falls away. And it falls away for several reasons. One is the directors and producers come in and they've looked on YouTube and they've watched the M Word and they've seen all that stuff and they're like, oh my God, I'm going to get like this big screen or this shiny toy. And then you have to say to them, no, with our budget, sorry, you're getting 2D and it's going to be a plate. And it could be amazing, and there's so much we could do with it, and there's so many ways that I could save a lot of money, and there is a lot of more creative things we could do. But they've got an idea in their head, and it's kind of breaking that mold, I think, and teaching people the limitations but also the possibilities. And I think that can only come with people getting hands-on experience in studios. And I think with the courses that I've done where it's been a group of across this, different groups of people from different sides of the industry and different roles, learning what you can do. And it's just that outreach has to be so important and it's also changing the workflow to make people understand it is worth putting that money up front into it. And it's also commissioners and getting them to understand that they have to sign off at the start. And that is a real big challenge. So I think we have to educate the whole way through. And also, middle management, like myself, where we're essentially going to be selling it. We're going to be driving the budget, driving the time, and we're going to be setting it out. And we need to understand the language. We need to understand what we're doing and what our teams are asking us to be able to do that properly. So it's important.
Michael, you were nodding away there. Have you got anything you want to add?
No, I just totally agree. Like, it's so true. Everything you're saying just resonates. I do feel like we are... we launched our academy a year ago, so in that time we've done a lot of different engagements, just like the sort of thing Rachel's talking about, where we've brought people to set so that they can get hands-on experience. And one of the things you see in that kind of moment is, one of the best pieces of feedback I've had is someone said to us, this is life-changing for me. This has really made me realise the direction I want to go in my career. And to do that kind of thing is so rewarding in so many ways. Like, it all pays off. Obviously on our side is in doing the training, but also for them. We're helping to create this industry, and we recognised really early on when we started the company during the pandemic. Final Pixel was very involved in education, and that education happened from day one with clients. So the very first clients we spoke to, we were running seminars for them on what is virtual production, how does it work, what does it do, and it's that conversation we've been having now for 2 years, constantly. And education was such a kind of core part of our company that we decided to set up this academy, which is all under an academy umbrella. Jodie leads the academy in a way which we can do virtual production training internationally, so we can get that kind of that kind of knowledge that we're picking up from shoots into the minds of other people, so that we can grow this industry. Because otherwise, we're not going to have the people, we're not going to have the skills on set, and we're not going to be able to get those sorts of reactions, where people really see it, enjoy it, love it, want to be part of this. Because that's why we're doing it, because we all love it. It's such an amazing technology, it's such an amazing opportunity you can do with it. Add into the mix Unreal Engine, and all the possibilities of Unreal Engine. That's going to become this tool of, package of software which is woven through the whole of film and TV, from pre-vis, post-vis, everything that we do currently in film and TV is sort of augmented and can be improved by the using real-time engine like Unreal Engine. And so, we became an authorised training partner with Epic Games so that we could deploy Unreal Engine training as well. And I think this combination of, the virtual production skills, the pre-production, the art skills and everything is really creating this whole new industry that is only possible if, there's academies like ours and I know there's others out there that have started up. If they're getting, if we're able to get into that space and get the knowledge out and be willing to share it as well. But if that doesn't happen fast enough, then we're going to have a more challenging time as an industry, I think, to really adopt this virtual production.
Okay, well, thank you. I'm going to open this now to the audience. If the audience have got any questions I know we've got some students, if they want to ask any questions. But I think one thing we all know, but it's sort of confirmed, is that we all need to be working together more, and we need to continue to, like you said, this is the time to be doing it so that it's ready for the future, basically. So if we haven't got any questions, I think... Oh, we have got one question. We've got a couple of questions. Have we got a couple of mics? Oh.
Thank you. I wanted to ask if, I guess on virtual production sets, are there often runners or trainees, and if it may be it would be a more open or a better space for them, since Saul Gittens from in one of the previous talks mentioned that in a virtual production set you have the luxury sometimes to make mistakes, whereas on set maybe you don't, and then you get your house remortgaged, whatever. But what about virtual production sets?
Who wants to take that question?
I can answer that. Yes. And quick example, we had a guy came on for work experience just about a year ago now. First shoot he came on, the job was to just run, make the coffees, he was just getting involved, that was it. In the space of a year, he's became one of our go-to stage operators with Unreal. So he came from a different kind of background. He wasn't working in film and TV at the time. Really was kind of keen to get in, had great kind of software knowledge, and worked on set. Until we saw the kind of attitude that he had, the way that he had knowledge, and then now he's been working with us since. So yeah, I would say that's absolutely this imperative that we always try and bring in runners and new people. So
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I kind of have an addition to that as well. So I was teaching my third year film students when I was at university, and I had one student, Jean, who was came and was a runner on my VP short that we did. And we had quite a few students that were shadowing us and getting a really good insight to it. Moses did all of our camera tracking and came in and did the consulting with us. And it was such an eye-opening opportunity that he made his third year film as a VP, but Moses let him shoot it at their studio. We have quite a few of our graduates that went in. We're working with graduates that are coming in as well. I think what students who are graduating from university or thinking of going to university, and also universities are now doing, is partnering more with industry, because meeting those KPIs, making sure there's employability, making sure they get the retention, make sure they're getting the students that are coming in and getting the key skills is so important. And because you probably heard today that this is such a evolving and developing industry, it's such a great opportunity for students who just plug yourself in that you will find someplace. You will find, because it's not only for shoots, but for R&D, for test demo shoots, things like that. And I think Jean is a perfect example and showed me that, you know, just a student who has traditional filmmaking background, because that's all he was taught at uni, was just there, much like James, was just like, I just want to learn everything. Just plug me in, whatever, you know, just I want to be around and understand and just absorb and watch. Because you can see even the experts and the professionals here are still learning. And so I think that's a really good thing to keep in mind. Because a lot of young students or young people that are coming to the industry, it's that confidence, thinking this is scary stuff, I don't know all this digital technology, I don't know this terminology. And that's part of the education package as well. It's not just teaching you the hard skills, but making sure that you understand how to hold your own and to maneuver through the industry and to make sure that you have and find a place there for you, for your talents.
Okay, thank you very much. Was there another question?
Just to all of the panel, basically, I just wondered, there was a mention, obviously, that you've got your own academies that you've set up, and the fact that you're doing sort of roadshow events for people in the industry wanting to come up to speed, etc., with the new technologies. Also, I know places like the National Film School at Beaconsfield, they have their own stages, obviously, so that they're training up their current range of students on the technology that you guys are using, so they can come out, they're already up to speed effectively to come into the industry. Are there plans to expand that a bit more so that there are more of the educational establishments having the kits at the level that you're working at, so that when they come out to you, it's not a case of catching up, they're already up to the speed that you require them to be at?
Absolutely, and actually we're doing that as well. Sorry, I should add that a lot of the time, you know, this past year that Jodie's been working on the academy has been those university partnerships. So actually we go into universities. We've been to Greenwich University, Middlesex University, we're at Bucks New University at the moment. We're in each of those situations, we've taken in an LED wall, taken in the team, set it up. It started with a train the trainer type thing, so train the university staff who are from the technical background on, you know, what are all the components of virtual production. You know, Unreal Engine, quite often there's a big Unreal Engine lead in. We might do 2 or 3 weeks before we actually get on set, and then have some time on set with those technical trainers to teach them. And then the next stage is then, you know, for the universities that are thinking about buying a wall or investing in this kind of thing, is that we might run a project for them. So we'll come in and again bring the wall in and run a hands-on project for the students. So we're doing that right now at university, and it means that then they get a bit of a practical experience as trainers, you know, going through the process of what this is actually going to be like before they commit to invest in, you know, potentially a you know, multi-million-pound system. So I think, and even then, once they do invest in that system, our whole, you know, the message that we're trying to continually get across to those universities is you need to keep up the training and support, because it's very easy to spend a capital budget on something like this, but then not have all the training around it to kind of keep it up. And our whole philosophy as a business is that we will continue to share everything we're learning about virtual production. We're not going to try and hang on to it and hide. So we'll come in and we'll literally, guys will come off shoot, walk into the uni the next day and say, we were just doing this yesterday on the virtual production shoot. So we're rapidly doing that knowledge transfer piece so that we can, as quick as possible, like achieve just what you're talking about, that students come out and they're hopefully, you know, more ready than they would have been to get into a virtual production job. I think Rachel.
Yeah, I was just going to say that there's something that I was really excited about. There's a gentleman here from the University of the Arts, and to have that, and he's interested in having a screen within the university. And then you've got, you know, fashion students, you've got advertising students, fine art students, all working together. And to think about giving them the opportunity for that technology and what they can come up with in that time, because you've got all of these amazing creative minds working together. But I think it's also really important that to have a training for people who are already in the industry. I think one of the major hurdles we're going to have is a complete lack of really good virtual production supervisors, because managing people on a set is difficult, understanding the technology is difficult, and so having people who have those combination of skill sets is what I think is what is going to come out of the courses, that people will hopefully fall into that role and find that they can go into that position. And then you need them to be teachers. So it's a real mix of, soft skills and hard skills that has to have in that role. And I think that's where we're really going to have to push people to have engagement with it.
Did anybody have any more questions? We've got a question at the back.
Hi, my name is Ilaria. Just to give you just a super brief notice of what is my background. I came from Italy. I studied architecture during university, and then from there I studied 3D, VFX, animation, and then I landed here doing media. I would like to ask for people that maybe don't have the support from their university because maybe they study something different or like they just came in this industry. What is the very one advice that you would suggest them on, like would like to tell them to finally step in and make a career in this industry?
I mean, I think you are doing it. I'm a fine art graduate who went into theatre, who then decided to come and do TV and film. And I have bills to pay and rent. So I work as a production manager in traditional, and I do this on the side. And the training courses I do are in my holidays, and it's getting on screen skills, finding those courses, and you're here. It's meeting people at these events. And the wonderful thing about this being a new industry is that when you come to these events or do training, you've got people who are CEOs down to students who are all working to learn and create the same things. So the networking you're going to do and the opportunities you're going to get from that are going to be as key as the training that you're going to get on the job.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I agree. Screen skills, again, we're mentioning that quite often, and because there's a course coming up on the 8th and 9th, so check that out. That's for LED and camera and lighting. But those kinds of opportunities on any of these courses, we've run this quite often with Screen Skills and in conjunction with Target 3D, and we find that there's all kinds of multidisciplined people that are coming on the set, not just camera and lighting, for example. We have DOPs, we have directors, we have people that are from games, we have people that are from architecture, we have people from computer backgrounds even. And that's the amazing thing about this. I was delivering a course the other day. All of the film instructors were sitting on this side, and all the games instructors were sitting on this side of the room. And I just thought, okay, guys, STEM and arts is now together, and we're all kind of in this mishmash. How do we find a way to collaborate? And it's really these kinds of opportunities to come on set to learn from each other, as opposed to one particular skill. That again, I go back to the kind of generalism of learning lots of different things and finding your way. We've got lots of people in architecture that come and do ArchViz and then move to VAD, and it's really amazing to see that transformation. And I think learning those skills and constantly, like you said, just taking them on your holidays and when you've got time, that if you don't have time to go to university, those opportunities do exist. You have to be a bit more self-directive and make sure you're plugged in to know where everything is happening, rather than going to uni and just having a program laid out in front of you. But I think there's multiple opportunities on either side of those trajectories and pathways for you if you just jump in and the curiosity and take advantage of those as well.
Thank you very much. Have we got any last questions before I hand back over to our lovely host? No? Well, thank you so much. I think that information is so... We as an industry, we need to stick together and make sure that we're putting the right plans in for the future. Thank you very much for joining us.